Just a minute. Okay. Okay, this is where we are. Human life is meant for God realization, and the human being is given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain a higher state should follow the instructions of the Vedic literatures. A higher state, either by attaining love for Krishna, which is the highest possible achievement, or liberation from material existence, or at least achieve a higher material state in the next life. Dharmis, Jnanis, Bhaktas. All three should follow the instructions of Vedic literatures. They need to surrender to Vedic authority. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Suta Goswami describes the proper human dharma in this way. Dharmasya hyapavargyasya narthorthayopakalpate narthasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya kismritaha. All occupational engagements, dharma, are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, dharma, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. In other words, dharma, piety, is actually meant to be a preparation for liberation, moksha. Dharma is meant for moksha. Dharma is not actually meant for the sake of attaining artha, material gain in this life or in the next life, in order to have enhanced sense enjoyment, kama. So from this it's clear that the pathway of the karmis is defective and does not come up to Srimad Bhagavatam's standard, the standard of Srimad Bhagavatam. The first step in human civilization consists of occupational engagements performed according to the scriptural injunctions. Karma, Varnashama Dharma, Varna Dharma, Ashma Dharma for men, Stri Dharma for women. And everyone has the common duties of bhakti and dhyana also. The higher intelligence of a human being should be trained to understand basic dharma. In human society, there are various religious conceptions characterized as Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Jew, Mohammedan, Muslim, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, human society is no better than animal society. In religion, you come across prescriptions, prohibitions, and allowances. Vidhi, nishedhas, vikalpas. As stated about dharmasya hyapavargyasya narthorthayopakalpate. Religion is meant for attaining emancipation, liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Not for getting bread. Sometimes human society manufactures a system of so-called religion aimed at material advancement, but that is far from the purpose of true dharma. Religion entails understanding the laws of God, because the proper execution of these laws ultimately leads one out of material entanglement. So everything is aimed at liberation from material existence. You get out of material existence. That is the true purpose of religion. Unfortunately, people accept religion for material prosperity because of atyaha, or an excessive desire for such prosperity. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita, we are given this instruction through Lord Krishna's emphasis on performing every activity in the mode of goodness. So you will find in chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita, and then later chapter 17 and chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna distinguishes between various activities and attitudes in Tamoguna, Rajaguna, Satoguna. And the reason why Lord Krishna does it is to point out that we have to function in the mode of goodness. If you function in the mode of goodness, then you're trained to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. So then Krishna consciousness becomes the primary purpose of existence, and everything else is just barely required, as less as possible. As less as possible. Right. No. No. Okay. And even though we require economic development, true religion allows it only for supplying the bare necessities of material existence. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. If our endeavor, prayasa, is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. Now, inquire about the absolute truth, or tattva jigyasa. Jigyasa is not just referring to intellectual inquiry. It refers to the desire to know, to understand, to realize the supreme absolute truth, Bhagavan, who is partially manifested as Paramatma, and vaguely manifested as Brahma. So that should be our endeavor. Our endeavor should be to know, to understand, and realize that supreme personality of God. If our endeavor, prayasa, is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor. Another impediment is prajalpa, unnecessary talking. When we mix with a few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like croaking toads. If we must talk, we should talk about the Krishna consciousness movement. Those outside of the Krishna consciousness movement are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, and novels, solving crossword puzzles, and doing many other nonsensical things. In today's world, we have a great Facebook, and we have so many unnecessary things, so many things by which we can downgrade in Krishna consciousness. Be carefully think technology is a very useful tool for downgrading in spiritual realization. In this fashion, people simply waste their valuable time and energy. In the Western countries, old men, retired from active life, play cards, fish, watch television, and debate about useless socio-political schemes. Television, movies, all kinds of things. In today's world, there are so many ways by which you can be Krishna unconscious. All these and other frivolous activities are included in the Prajalpa category. Sports. Prabhu often said sports is detrimental to Krishna consciousness and so on. Engagement in these. Anything outside of Shravadam Kirtanam Vishnu, Sparanam Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasim, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. And whatever is barely required to sustain ourselves in order to engage in Shravadam Kirtanam Vishnu, Sparanam Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasim, Sakyam, Atmanivedam. Only that much. Intelligent persons interested in Krishna consciousness should never take part in such activities. Janasanga refers to associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. We do it almost all the time. And then we wonder why we don't make spiritual progress, or we fantasize that just externally executing certain minimal activities qualifies me to attain the highest abode in the spiritual world after I die. It's just some kind of will of the wisp, Akash Kusam. It's a sky, a pie in the sky, actually. It's just crazy idea. All of this is happening because we associate with those who are not interested in making spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness. One should strictly avoid such association. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees. Bhakta Sane Vas. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. This is the basic idea. You stay with those who are spiritually like-minded and you engage in devotion service unto Lord Krishna. You serve Lord Krishna. There are 64 ways by which we can serve Krishna. And for that, we need to live with those who are like-minded. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. Consequently, materialistic persons form various associations and clubs to enhance their endeavors. For example, in the business world, we find such institutions as the Stock Exchange and Chamber of Commerce. Similarly, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Krishna. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. Many people from different parts of the world are joining this society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvrittic commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers falls within the category of atyahara, collecting more than needed, because you're collecting more information than needed. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, the endeavor of philosophical speculators to write volumes of books on dry philosophy, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is entirely futile, waste of time. The work of karmis who write volumes of books on economic development also falls within the category of atyahara. If you're interested in elevating yourself materially in your next life and you accept Vedic authority, then you follow karma kanda and you write so many books to make people understand how to execute the rituals and regulations of karma kanda. That is, that work is also atyahara. And then when you deal with the sinful materialists who don't accept Vedic authority, who simply write volumes of books on how to become successful. Successful means you become rich. Or people who are absolutely deluded by money. That is success. Those writings are also within the category of atyahara. Similarly, those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and are simply interested in pursuing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gain, are all included under the control of atyahara. That means labor to accumulate more and more money for future generations only because they do not know their future position, interested only in getting more and more money for their sons and grandsons. Such foolish persons do not even know what their position is going to be in the next life. There are many incidents that illustrate this point. Once, a great karmi accumulated a vast fortune for his sons and grandsons, but later, according to his karma, he took his birth in a cobbler's house located near the building, which in his previous life he had constructed for his children. It so happened that when this very cobbler came to his former house, his former sons and grandsons beat him with shoes. So unless we engage in activities by which we progress in spiritual realization, we will certainly end up with various forms of absurdities like this. Unless the karmis and jnanis become interested in Krishna consciousness, they will simply continue to waste their life in fruitless activities. Accepting some of the scriptural rules and regulations for immediate benefit, as utilitarians advocate, is called niyama agraha. And neglecting the rules and regulations of the shastras, which are meant for spiritual development, is called niyama agraha. So on one hand, you have scriptural rules and regulations by which you can become happy in this life. On the other hand, you have scriptural rules and regulations by which you can attain spiritual development, by which you don't attain material benefit in this life, but by which you can attain tangible spiritual development. So to be interested in the former and to be disinterested in the latter, that is indicated by niyama agraha. The word agraha means eagerness to accept, and agraha means failure to accept. By the addition of either of these two words to the word niyama, rules and regulations, the word niyama agraha is formed. This niyama agraha has a twofold meaning that is understood according to the particular combination of words. Those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager to accept rules and regulations for economic advancement. Yet they should very faithfully accept scriptural rules and regulations for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. In other words, we should not be interested in the rules and regulations concerning progress in dharma, artha, kama, and even mere moksha, just liberation without any facility to serve Krishna. In fact, pure devotees of Krishna are not even interested in liberation from material existence. These subjects come in nectar of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. On the other hand, we should be interested in the rules and regulations for making spiritual progress. So to be interested in the wrong set of rules and regulations, on the inappropriate set of rules and regulations, and to be disinterested in the appropriate set of rules and regulations. This is the problem known as niyama agraha. The scriptures on pure devotional service give various rules and regulations and restrictions pertaining to what we need to do in order to progress from Shraddha to Prema. We must be interested in that. But we should not be interested in the rules and regulations by which we can attain material piety, by which we can attain material opulence, by which we can attain material sense enjoyment. The scriptures teach everything. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, the Vedas deal with dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and bhagavad prema. All these subjects are there. Everything is not meant for everyone. There are those for whom the scriptures give instructions on kama. There are kama shastras. There are scriptures which give instructions on artha shastras. There are scriptures which give instructions on how to attain piety, dharma shastras. There are scriptures which give instruction on how to attain liberation, moksha shastras. There are scriptures which give instruction on how to attain pure devotion service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shuddha Bhakti Shastra. So we should be interested in niyamas, the prescriptions, prohibitions, and allowances presented in the Bhakti Shastras. We should be disinterested in the rules and regulations, prescriptions, prohibitions, allowances of the other scriptures. they should strictly follow the regulatory principles by avoiding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Prabhupada has well defined each of this, and it is our duty to accept the austerity of following the regulatory principles by avoiding these four activities as defined by Prabhupada. One should also avoid association with Mayavadis who simply blaspheme Vaishnavas or devotees. Certainly, we should not allow them to conduct classes within our premises. There is a misconception that Mayavadis are innocent Brahmavadis. It is not so. It is not so. Even if you say that the impersonalists that I am dealing with are actually Brahmavadis and not Mayavadis, still we should understand the distinction between Mayavada and Brahmavada. In Mayavada, you come to the conclusion that Paramatma and Bhagavan are products of Maya. In Brahmavada, you may accept that Paramatma and Bhagavan are as spiritual as Brahman, but that you are interested in Brahman. Nevertheless, those who are interested in attaining, those who want to merge into the impersonal Brahman, they have been counted in the scriptures as enemies of Krishna. They are still enemies. The ones who consider Paramatma and Bhagavan to be Maya, they go to hell. That is very clearly stated. Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi. They are offenders unto Krishna, therefore they end up in hell. But what about the non-Mayavadi impersonalists? They are enemies of Krishna. So therefore, those who want to establish friendship with Krishna by surrendering unto his lotus feet, in order to attain perpetual devotion service unto his lotus feet in the spiritual world, they will always avoid even the non-Mayavadi impersonalists. Bhukti kamis, who are interested in material happiness. Mukti kamis, who desire liberation by merging in the existence of the formless absolute Brahman. And Siddhi kamis, who desire the perfection of mystic yoga practice, are classified as Atyaharis. To associate with such persons is not at all desirable. Desiring to expand the mind by perfecting mystic yoga, merging in the existence of Brahman, or attaining whimsical material prosperity are all included within the category of greed. This greed is a big problem. This greed for becoming materially prosperous, the greed for attaining various mystic powers, the greed for merging into the existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti. These forms of intense desires are within the category of lovely greed. Any ambition other than the ambition to progress from Shraddha to Prema falls under lovely. All attempts to acquire such material benefits or so-called spiritual advancement are impediments on the path of Krishna consciousness. Modern warfare waged between capitalists and communists is due to their avoiding the advice of Srila Rupa Goswami regarding Atyaha. Modern capitalists accumulate more wealth than necessary, and the communists, envious of their prosperity, want to nationalize all wealth and property. Unfortunately, the communists do not know how to solve the problem of wealth and its distribution. Consequently, when the wealth of the capitalists falls within the hands of the communists, no solution results. Opposed to these two philosophies, the Krishna conscious ideology states that all wealth belongs to Krishna. Thus, unless all wealth comes under the administration of Krishna, there can be no solution to the economic problem of mankind. Nothing can be solved by placing wealth in the hands of the communists or the capitalists. If a $100 bill is lying on the street, someone may pick it up and put it in his pocket. Such a man is not honest. Another man may see the money and decide to let it remain there, thinking that he should not touch another's property. Although the second man does not steal the money for his own purposes, he is unaware of its proper use. The third man who sees a $100 bill may pick it up, find the man who lost it, and deliver it to him. This man does not steal the money to spend for himself, nor does he neglect it and let it lie in the street. By taking it and delivering it to the man who has lost it, this man is both honest and wise. Similarly, Transferring wealth from capitalists to communists cannot solve the problem of modern politics, for it has been demonstrated that when a communist gets money, he uses it for his own sense gratification. He becomes corrupt also. The wealth of the world actually belongs to Krishna, and every living entity, man and animal, has the birthright to use God's property for his maintenance. When one takes more than his maintenance requires, be he a capitalist or a communist, he is a thief, and as such, is liable to be punished by the laws of nature. The wealth of the world should be used for the welfare of all living entities, for that is the plan of Mother Nature. Very important statement, let me read it again. The wealth of the world should be used for the welfare of all living entities, for that is the plan of material nature, Mother Nature. Now, what is the meaning of to be used for the welfare of all living entities? That is the same as following Krishna's instructions. Because Krishna knows best how to do welfare for all living entities. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sukhritam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shantim vichhati. One can attain peace only when one realizes that Krishna is the supreme bhokta, enjoyer. If we obey him, we also enjoy, but we are not the supreme enjoyers. We are subordinate enjoyers. We enjoy little, he enjoys the most. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwara. The supreme controller. We can never ever become the supreme controller. We can become subordinate controllers, dependent controllers. Sukhridam sarvabhutana. Krishna is also the supreme well-wisher. We can never become the supreme well-wisher. We can become subordinate well-wisher. We can never love all the living entities the way Krishna loves. And Krishna also knows what should be done for each living entity's material and spiritual welfare. And his plan is the same as the plan of Mother Nature. Everyone has the right to live by utilizing the wealth of the Lord. When people learn the art of scientifically utilizing the Lord's property, they will no longer encroach upon one another's rights. Then an ideal society can be formed. The basic principle for such a spiritual society is stated in the first mantra of Śrī Upadeśāmṛta. Īśāvāsya-midam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunji tha ma vridah kasya svindhana. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and should not accept other things, knowing well whom they belong. In other words, we should not be greedy to possess that which does not belong to us. Lust, anger, greed, these are three gateways to hell. Krishna conscious devotees know very well that this material world is designed by the complete arrangement of the Lord to fulfill all the necessities of life for all living beings without their having to encroach upon the life or rights of one another. This complete arrangement affords the proper quota of wealth for everyone according to his real needs. And thus everyone may live peacefully according to the principle of plain living and high thinking. Plain living, high thinking is the same as simple living, high thinking. Produce what you require and subsist on what you produce. Unfortunately, materialists who have neither faith in the plan of God nor any aspiration for higher spiritual development misuse their God-given intelligence only to augment or increase their material possessions. They devise many systems, such as capitalism and materialistic communism, to advance their material position. They are not interested in the laws of God or in a higher goal. Always anxious to fulfill their unlimited desires for sense gratification, they are conspicuous by their ability to exploit their fellow living beings. When human society gives up these elementary faults enumerated by Srila Rupa Goswami, Atyahara, etc., all enmity will cease between men and animals, capitalism, communism, and so forth. In addition, all problems of economic or political maladjustment and instability will be solved. This pure consciousness is awakened by the proper spiritual education and practice offered scientifically by the Krishna consciousness movement. This Krishna consciousness movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. Every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and rid himself of the above-mentioned 6 hindrances to devotional service by taking wholehearted shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement. So the Krishna consciousness movement is supposed to bring about a spiritual community that can bring peace to the entire world. The movement will be capable of bringing about such a community if it sticks to the instructions given by Srila Rupa Goswami, as explained by Srila Prabhupada, and as explained by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as we see in the protocols. X3. Bhakti Ranukul ki. What are favorable for bhakti? Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tattatkarma, Pravartana, Sangatyaga, Satovritte, Shadvi Bhakti, Prasiddhyati. By these 6 principles: enthusiasm, confidence, patience, performance of various activities favorable for devotion service, giving up the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of the great previous acharyas. One's devotion service advances or becomes successful. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of your devotion service: being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regular principles such as Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarana, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Okay. Utsahat. Utsaha refers to enthusiasm in the practice of bhakti. Nishchaya refers to firm conviction. Dhairya refers to tolerance or patience, even when we notice a delay in the achievement of our cherished goal. Tat karma pravartana refers to carrying out the various bhakti angas such as Shravanam and Kirtanam, and the avoidance and to avoid enjoyment for the pleasure of Krishna. Sangatyaga refers to illicit association with women, association with those who associate with women, and association with those who are not devotees of Krishna. This is known as Sangha. Sangatyaga refers to giving up these forms of evil Sangha. These are all various forms of evil Sangha. Satovritti. To go about one's life through a vritti, through an occupation or conduct that has been exhibited by the sadhus, the Mahajanas. This conduct refers to sadachara, good conduct. Through these 6 principles, bhakti attains perfection. Udesha Prakashika. Tattaddanganusthane utsukat. One should be eager to engage in the various items of bhakti. Nishchayat Vishwasat. Nishchaya indicates that one must have conviction in the principles of bhakti. Dhairya swabhishta brahmevi tad anga shaithilyam. Patience means to not slacken in the execution of the various forms of bhakti, even when there is a delay in the attainment of one's cherished goals. Tattat karma pravartana refers to engage in that Bhagavata dharma in which we abandon the happiness of enjoyment for the sake of Bhagavan. Tatha cha uttam, and this has been stated. Bhagavate, in Bhagavatam, evam dharme manushyanam utthavatman nivedinam mai sanjayate bhakti punyarthosya vashishyate iti. I give it the supreme religious system of human society is that by which one can awaken his dormant love for me. It traces of 24, where is 24? That is the last one. So this. These constitute genuine religious principles by which those human beings who have actually surrendered themselves to me automatically develop love for me. What other purpose or goal would remain for my devotee? So this actually refers to various forms of devotion. So you can see here, firm faith in the blissful narration of my pastimes, constant chanting of my glories, unwavering attachment to ceremonial worship of me, praising me through beautiful hymns, great respect for my devotion service, offering obeisances with the entire body, performing first-class worship of my devotees, consciousness of me in all living entities, offering of ordinary bodily activities in my devotion service, use of words to describe my qualities, offering the mind to me, rejection of all material desires, giving up wealth for my devotion service, renouncing material sense gratification and happiness, and performing all desirable activities such as charity, sacrifice, chanting, vows, and austerities with the purpose of achievement. These constitute genuine religious principles by which those human beings who have actually surrendered themselves to me automatically develop love for me. What other purpose or goal could remain for my devotee? So that refers to tattat karma pravartana. To engage in those kinds of devotional activities by which one automatically develops love for Krishna. Sato vritti sadachara. Sato vritti refers to sadachara, auspicious conduct. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's paraphrase of Upadeśāmṛta, Anukulya Sankalper Chhoyanga Sar, Utsaha Vishwas Dhairya Tat Karma are in the acceptance of the favorable, in the process of surrendering unto Krishna's lotus feet. There are 6 items, and one of that is to accept that which is favorable to Krishna. That is called Anukulya Sankalpa. To accept that which is pleasing to Krishna. So in that Anukulya Sankalpa, there are 6 limbs. There are 6 items, 6 essential items. Utsaha, enthusiasm; Vishwas, conviction; Dhairya, patience; Tat Karma, engagement in various activities of bhakti; Sangatyaga, sadhu vritti, Orile, Ashray, Bhakti Jog, Siddhi Labh, Sarva Shastre Koi. To abandon evil association, to accept sadhu vritti, saintly occupation, saintly behavior. So if one takes shelter of all of these, then all the scriptures say that one attains the perfection of bhakti yoga, or rather bhakti yoga, his engagement in bhakti yoga attains perfection. Bhakti anusthani utsaher prayojan, bhakti te vishwas dridha dhairyavalambam. In the performance of bhakti, it is one needs to have enthusiasm, faith in the process of bhakti. One should have very firm patience. Je karma korile hoy bhaktir ulas, je karma jivan jatra nirvahe prayas. To engage in activities by which one can become ecstatic in bhakti, by which bhakti becomes excited and well developed, and to endeavor to engage in those activities that are required for one's jivan yatra, for one's material subsistence. Asatsanga tyage hoy sangha vivarjan, sadachar sadhu vritti sarvada palam. To give up asatsanga, to give up association with, to give up evil association. That is the meaning of abandoning sangha, abandoning attachment. You can say. Then sadachar, or auspicious conduct, refers to the behavior of the saints, and that should be constantly adhered to. Tyagi bhiksha joge ar vrihi Nāmāśraya, toribe jivan jatra savadhana bhai. The tyagi should maintain himself by begging alms, and the grihi, the tyagi refers to the renunciant, the grihi refers to the householder, and the householder, he must maintain his life by taking shelter of dharma. Savadhana hoy. This should be done very attentively. Both of them. Both the tyagi and the grihastha. Both of them. They should be attentive towards this. Piyusha varshini vritti. Jivan jatra nirvaho. O bhaktir anushila. Ek duiti bhaktir avashyak. For a devotee, 2 things are necessary to subsist, to maintain oneself materially, and to engage in the practice of bhakti, to cultivate bhakti. Shloke prasmarthe bhakti anushilner anukul kriya vyavastha. The first half of this shloka has an arrangement to engage in activities that are favorable for the cultivation of bhakti. Shesharthe bhakta jivaner vyavastha. In the second half of this verse, there is an arrangement for the life of that devotee. Utsaha nischaya dhairya bhakti poshak karjanushthan sangatyag sadachar va sadvritti hoite bhakti siddha hon. Bhakti attains perfection through enthusiasm, through firm conviction, through patience, through execution of duties that nourish bhakti, through abandoning, by abandoning evil association, and by engaging in auspicious activities. Utsaha bhaktir anga anusthane autsukya. Enthusiasm refers to great eagerness to engage in the activities of bhakti. Audasinye bhakti lobh hoy. When one becomes indifferent to engage in the various activities of bhakti, then bhakti disappears. Adarer sahit anushīlanai utsaha. To engage in the practice of bhakti with adar. Adar means care, respect, and attention. That is the meaning of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means to engage in the practice of bhakti with care, respect, and attention. Nishchay dridha vishwas. Conviction refers to firm belief. Dhairya abhishta labhe vilamba dekhiya sadhanangi shaitalya nakara. Patience refers to not slackening one's engagement in the various aspects of sadhana bhakti upon seeing a delay in the attainment of one's cherished goal. Bhakti poshak karmo vidhi or nishedh bhete dvibhita. The activities that nourish bhakti are of two types: prescriptions and prohibitions. Shravanam kirtanadi vidhi. Shravanam, kirtanam, and so on are prescriptions, are prescribed. Krishna janna swiya bhoga sukh parityagadi nishedh. To abandon one's enjoyable happiness for the sake of Krishna, and so on, are prescriptions. Sangatyag, adharma, Śrī Sangha. Straina bhavarup yoshit sangha. Yoshit sangi sangha. Evam abhakta arthat vishi mayavade nidishwar or dharma dvajir sangatya. Sangatya. Abandoning the association refers to abandoning the association of one engaged in a dharmic association with woman. Associating with woman while being henpecked. To associate with someone who is associating with woman. And a non-devotee refers to a sense enjoyer, a mayavadi, an atheist, and a religious hypocrite. So one should abandon the association with all of these types of non-devotees. Sadvritti, sadhugan, je sadachar anushthan koriyachen, evam je vrittir dara jivan nirbah koriyachen. Sadvritti, or spiritual conduct, refers to sadachar, or proper behavior that has been followed by saints, and the occupation that they have accepted to maintain their lives. Grihatyagi vyaktir vriksha umadhukar evam grihastha bhaktir swavarnashram vidhisammata vritti vihai sadvritti. And sadvritti, or proper behavior, proper conduct for a grihatyagi person, a person who has renounced his home, his family, the proper conduct for such a person is to beg for alms and to follow the Madhukari method of begging for a little bit of food from several householders in order to maintain himself. And for Grihastha Bhaktas, it is to follow the occupation that is in line with the regulations pertaining to one's own varna and ashrama. Okay, now what I'll do is I will take up Bhakti Aloka again. Bhakti Aloka, I'll directly take it from here. Six qualities that enhance bhakti. Utsaha, enthusiasm. In his Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, Śrīla Rupa Goswami has described Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyamagraha, Sangam, Laudiyas, detrimental to devotional service. We have already separately described these 6 items. Now in the third shloka, he mentions the 6 items favorable for devotional service. Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tat Karma Pravartana, Sangatyaga, Satovritti, Shadvirvakti, Prasiddhyati. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Utsaha, being enthusiastic. Nishchaya, endeavoring with confidence. Dhairya, being patient. Tat Karma Pravartana, acting according to regulated principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Sangatyaga, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And Satovritti, or Sadhu Vritti, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Now we should discuss these 6 items separately. Therefore, first I'm speaking about the conclusions regarding utsaha. Without utsaha, one becomes negligent in his worship, without enthusiasm. Negligence is born out of inactivity, apathy, or indifference. Laziness and inertia are called inactivity. When utsaha, enthusiasm, is generated, laziness and inertia cannot remain. The absence of desire to work is inertia. This inertia is opposite to the nature of spirit. If one allows this inertia to remain in his body or heart, then how can he perform devotional service? The state of apathy develops from carelessness. One should practice devotional service without deviation, without inattention. This is instructed in the Bhagavad Gita in the following words. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga vyogam yoga samvitam sa nischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. In his commentary on this verse, Srila Varadev Vidyabhushana Mahashaya has said, Atmani yogyatva mananam nirvedaha tad rahitena chetasa. There is some mistake here. Let me trace out the original. যে কার্যে আপনাকে অযোগ্য মনন করা যায় সেই কার্যে নির্বেদ হয় সেই রূপ নির্বেদ শূন্য চিত্তের সহিত ভক্তি যোগ করিতে হয় one attains when one considers himself to be unqualified to engage in a certain activity, then he develops a disinterest for that activity. One should make sure that his mind is devoid of this disinterest and then engage in bhakti yoga. No. No, it's a mistake here. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nirvinnanam Jnana Yoga Nyasinam Karmasu Teshva Nirvinna Chittanam Karma Yogastu Kamina Yadrikshaya Kathadavu Jata Shraddhastu Yahtaman Na Nirvinno Nati Sakto Bhakti Yogosya Siddhidaha. Among these three parts, this is Lord Krishna talking to Uddhava, and he's talking of the pathway of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Along these three paths, Jnana Yoga, the path of philosophical speculations, recommended for those who are disgusted with material life, thus detached from ordinary fruitive activities. Those who are not disgusted with material life, having many desires yet to fulfill, should seek perfection through the path of Karma Yoga. If somehow or other, by good fortune, one develops faith in hearing and chanting my glories, such a person, being neither very disgusted with nor attached to material life, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me. The purpose is this: for those who attain indifference for material activities, but have not yet realized spiritual activities, what can remain in their hearts besides indifference? For them, the undifferentiated Brahma-jnana is the topmost achievement. For those who have not attained indifference for material activities due to lack of spiritual realization, there is no way to cleanse the heart other than Karma Yoga. Those who have realized spiritual activities and understood that material activities are insignificant, attain indifference for all material activities. They accept some material activities as a support for their spiritual awakening, but they have no attachment for such activities. In proportion to the degree that they discuss spiritual topics in devotion, freedom from material association is awakened as an extraneous fruit. The symptoms of a devotee are given in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows: Jata Shraddho Madkathasu Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukhatma Kaman Parityagi Pyanishwaraha Tato Bhajetamam Brita Shraddhalo Dringanishchayaha Jishamanaschatan Kaman Dukhodar Kamsche Garhaya. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. Karma arises from lust. Jnana arises from indifference. And bhakti arises from faith in the Supreme Lord. So, when one, of course, here the lust is intense material desire. That is given vent within the boundaries of Vedic Dharma. Then there is performance of Karma Yoga. When one becomes indifferent to the fulfillment of one's material desires. Of course, he has no desire to engage in sinful material activities, but he is not even interested in sinless material activities. He becomes indifferent to sinful material activities. And he is also indifferent to sinless material activities. Then he engages in Jnana Yoga. When one develops unbreakable faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his devotional service, and in the process by which one can attain love for him, then he engages in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so we will now take up some questions if they exist. Let me first note down the first one, note down next week what I need. Today is 16th, next week will be 23rd. Just give me that. This is Bhakti Aruka. Opus 7. Okay, wait. Let me number of questions. Okay. Should we associate with such a devotee who is actively engaged in preaching activities but acts in a duplicitous way while doing politics? What is the fate of such devotees? In general, we know that there are several activities and attitudes which are greatly detrimental to ourselves. Putinati, duplicity or diplomacy has been forbidden by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to Rupa Goswami. Very self-destructive. In fact, Jiva Goswami has noted that in Bhakti Sandarbha, that one should be merciful to those who are not duplicitous or diplomatic. The implication is one should avoid those who are of the other type. What about devotees associating with yogis to learn yoga, as it has been an ongoing trend for a while? Why a bhakti yogi needs to learn anything about Ashtanga yoga? When it is said, well should be with Krishna, what is it in a practical sense? It means all the money that we possess should be utilized for Shuddha Bhakti Vichar, Shuddha Bhakti Achar, Shuddha Bhakti Prachar. When we associate or join hands with Mayavadis for the sake of cow protection and or protecting Vedic culture, what is the limit? If you examine the way Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada set up their preaching mission, they were simply keeping it dependent on the purity of Krishna consciousness itself. One might very cautiously see if these other people are receptive to the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If they are not, what is the use? What is the use? Just examine how Prabhupada did things. That's exactly what he instructed his followers to do also. Yeah, and that directly matches with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's way of doing things also. Association with women, how does it work with devotee women taking preaching roles? For women, that's what when Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also pointed out, when associating with them, woman is forbidden for male-bodied devotees. Then similarly, for female-bodied devotees, association with men is forbidden. They are not supposed to associate with men. Gender separation. You have to be careful about all this. From the last session, if these material enjoyments are favorable to devotion service, the devotion householder can accept them without sin. A householder can engage in activities of dharma within his ashrama dharma, within his varna dharma. Not that householder is supposed to be miserable. In the last session, you mentioned about spiritual greed, dissatisfaction of current status of Krishna consciousness, while giving example of Gopakumar and Vrindavan Brahmana and Śrī Upadeśāmṛta. How to understand this in relation with verse in Canto 11, where the Lord says that devotees remain satisfied and happy with conviction and faith. 11.20.27, 28, 29. Now, this is different, that is different. This is supported by the sadhana bhakti. Okay, Prem goes into Prabhu. Did I just give a minute? I did something wrong here. Yes, right. Prem goes into Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Prabhuji, we talked about enthusiasm. So my question is that, and of course you said also that we have to execute all our sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti activities. So, I mean, for example, I'm just talking about myself. Suppose I'm executing the Vaidhi bhakti activities or sadhana bhakti activities as prescribed by the spiritual master. But still, most of the time, I find that I am doing it mechanically. So I want to understand what is the reason for not being able to develop enthusiasm. Where does it come from? And how to develop enthusiasm?
Enthusiasm comes from those who are enthusiastic. When we eagerly and submissively want to associate with those who are more advanced than us in order to attain the highest perfection of life, then Krishna gives us that kind of association and he guides us. There are 6 things to do, there are 6 things to avoid. So when we try to accept all the 6 items and we try to avoid all the 6 prohibitions, then Krishna will help us.
What is the root cause of lack of enthusiasm?
When one executes devotion service in its pure form, enthusiasm is natural. But otherwise, it becomes, when we contaminate our conviction, our understanding with various misunderstandings, and we bring in various desires which are not 100% pleasing to Krishna, then we slow things down. If we simply examine here, Lord Chaitanya's presentation of I'll just read our Prabhupada's translations. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with the bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. When a person receives the seed of devotion service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. As one waters the Bhakti-lata beach, the seed sprouts and the creeper gradually grows to the point where it penetrates the walls of this universe and goes beyond the Viraja river, lying between the spiritual world and the material world. It attains Brahmaloka, the Brahman effulgence, and penetrating through that stratum, it reaches the spiritual sky and the spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravana Kirtana, the bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. The creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotion service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant offenses may not enter. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotion service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. So what it means is, I am engaging in Shravanam Kirtana continuously or on a regular basis. But instead of me progressing from Shraddha to Prema, then all of this starts growing. I start increasingly becoming fond of material enjoyment, liberation from material world, or I develop tendencies to engage in behavior totally unacceptable for those who try to attain the perfection of bhakti. I become very diplomatic in my behavior. I develop a desire for animal killing. I develop a desire for mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, mundane importance, and so on. All because of Shravanam and Kirtanam, actually. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, grows nicely, returns home, back to God, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. There's a process. It's a process. It's not just enough to keep on doing what we've been told to do. We need to rectify our attitude. We need to rectify our whole life. There are many things which we should not do. There are many attitudes which we should give up. Lots of things. Krishna consciousness involves faith, conviction, ambitions, and activities. All four are there, 4 dimensions to Krishna consciousness. It's not enough just to externally just do whatever we've been told to do. My faith may be very highly contaminated. I may not have unbreakable faith in Krishna consciousness in the first place. I may not have a desire to engage exclusively in Krishna consciousness. I may be imagining that I have. Full faith means like Mrigari. Mrigari was told, you give up your occupation and then I will tell you what I'll tell you what to do. He's not even telling him. Narada Muni didn't even tell Mrigari what to do. He didn't even tell him to chant Hare Krishna and worship Tulasi. He simply said, first you give up your occupation, then I'll tell you. And Mrigari accepted that. That is faith in Krishna. That is faith in Krishna. In today's world, if we tell this, people will say you're highly impractical. You think money will fall from the sky? If you don't believe money will fall from the sky, what faith you have? You have no faith. Dhruva Maharaj had absolute faith in Krishna. Narada Muni has full faith in Krishna. They all have full faith. You need to have faith. The reason that I don't have that faith is because I have no experience of reciprocating with the Supreme Lord. No, I have not. That means my spiritual experience is almost zero. Simply because everybody else is telling something, I'm doing something. Or I got attracted to it, I don't even know why. Sentimentally, I came in, I'm doing something. This is not Krishna consciousness, Bhakti, Pareshana Bhavo, Viraktiranya Pracha. There has to be a taste for devotional service. There has to be direct experience of God right from the beginning. From Shraddha, these are all there. Only it increases further. and there is detachment and renunciation from everything else. This is there right from the beginning. It only increases more and more. So if these things are not there, then this is not even, properly speaking, engagement in bhakti yoga. It's not that everybody who engages in Navavida bhakti is automatically engaged in bhakti yoga. Even the karmis engage in Navavida bhakti. Dhyanis engage in Navavida bhakti. You may be engaging in Navavida bhakti, but what do you want? You want the result of, you want to attain that which can be accomplished through sinful activities, which is happiness in this life, or do you want material happiness in next life, which can be achieved through karma, or do you want liberation from material existence, which can be achieved through jnana, or do you want to attain Bhagavad Prema, that kind of love for him, which by seeing which Krishna becomes satisfied with us. So these are questions we need to keep asking ourselves on a routine basis. Enthusiasm comes from those who have enthusiasm. In fact, attitude comes from those who have, the right attitude comes from those who have the right attitude. But we submissively associate with them. And it comes by Krishna's own grace. That's also there. It comes from, by Krishna's own kindness. Krishna himself is. Krishna is a very, very important person in our life, actually. We may not understand that. But then gradually, when we progress in chanting, we understand. Chanting itself needs to be executed very carefully. Yesterday I was reading, there was one in Prabhupada Remembrances, one disciple of Prabhupada named Hamsatutta Prabhu. He recollected. It's there in the Vedabase also. And he was recollecting that at one time he was a member of the GBC. So Prabhupada once he flipped through some GBC resolutions. He said, what are they discussing? Are they discussing how to help the devotees increase the quality of their chanting? So Prabhupada considered this very important. Quality of chanting. Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, either you sit before the deity, concentrate on the deity, remember the meaning of the mantra and you chant. Or you close your eyes, close your ears, in fact, he said, and you chant the holy names while sitting. This is the meaning of this is the process of chanting. Otherwise, we are committing the offense known as inattention. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And in fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, inattention is the mother of all the offenses, all the other Nāmāśraya-bhakti. So these are all serious matters. And this requires hard work. We need to increase the quality of our chanting, the quantity of our chanting, while preserving our service attitude. Haridas Thakur never refused any of the services that he was given. He did not refuse to engage in the various active services that the Lord ordered him, just because he had to chant 192 rounds. Chanting 192 is your thing. Apart from that, Lord Chaitanya, when he says, go and preach, he has to preach. When he tells him, I'm going to Jagannath Puri, you also settle in Siddhabhakti. That also he does. Whatever he says, he does. Come participate in the night kirtan at Srivas Thakur's home, he does that. Act in this drama, he does that. Whatever. But without disturbing the 192 rounds. That is his own thing. He has to do that. That is called chanting. That is the process. It's a meticulous process. Everything has to be done very carefully. Otherwise, the result we will not get. If our lust, anger, greed has not reduced, then we should ask, am I engaging in the actual process or am I just simulating it? Okay, anything else? All right, further discussions we can have it in the Telegram group. Nāmāśraya-bhakti.